What secrets lie buried in the untold stories of America's early encounters between colonists and native peoples? Step into a turbulent chapter of history where violence, bloodshed, and captivity defined the fragile relationships between these groups. In this journey, we uncover the Native American perspective on captive women, revealing how they were treated in ways that challenge our assumptions. Welcome to Ancient Tone, where we illuminate the overlooked corners of the past, bringing fresh light to stories long forgotten. Within the context of these clashes, it is essential to acknowledge that the Native Americans had a similar approach toward prisoners, regardless of whether they belonged to competing tribes or other groups. This means that they treated prisoners in the same manner. Through this narration, we hope to discover their treatment of women who were captured, shining light on a facet that is frequently overlooked for the purpose of gaining an understanding of the Native American perspective and the actions they took toward these women, prisoners of war. Let us go on this journey. When colonizers and native Indian tribes came into conflict with one another throughout the turbulent period of colonization in America, the outcomes of these conflicts were frequently terrible. On occasion, Indian tribes would immediately put children to death in the event that they were subjected to raids. On the other hand, children who were able to survive and were taken as prisoners of war were given the opportunity to be brought up as complete members of the tribe by their parents. There were a variety of outcomes for the men who were taken captive. Some were seized as hostages, while others were forced to endure a long and agonizing death soon following the conflict. Alvar Núñez Cabeza de Vaca and his 3 companions, who were taken captive in what is now the state of Texas, are considered to be the earliest recorded Indian captives. This is a remarkable example where they were taken captive. These individuals, who were well-versed in medical matters, rose to positions of leadership quite rapidly and managed to maintain a satisfactory standard of living while they were held captive. In addition to being allowed to walk about freely, they were treated with respect by their captors, and they even received some degree of honor. On the other hand, the consequences that may befall women who were taken prisoner included both pitiful and dignified outcomes. It came as a surprise that the women who were held captive were the ones who were accorded the respect they deserved. Young females who had not yet attained the age of maturity at the time of their captivity were held in particularly high esteem by the various Indian tribes. Over the course of history, there have been several instances in which these girls, after being taken captive, have risen to positions of authority within their adoptive communities. An example of this would be Cynthia Parker, who was taken captive when she was a toddler, but eventually became a full-fledged member of her tribe, and eventually married Pita Nocona, the chief of the Comanche tribe. She became the mother of Quanah Parker, the last known military tribal head. During the time that Cynthia was found in 1860 and brought back to her family, she made multiple attempts to flee back to her tribe. One further story that has gained widespread attention is that of Millie Durgan, a kidnapped child who was raised in captivity, eventually married a Kiowa warrior, and lived a happy life until she was an elderly woman. It is essential to keep in mind that not all of the women who were held captive had a favorable experience. Some of the women who were taken captive while they were adolescents held a profound loathing for their new masters, and they did all in their power to break free from their captors and exact their vengeance. For instance, Matilda Lockhart, who was only 13 years old at the time, had a desire to exact revenge on the Comanches for the way they had treated her. During a gathering of Native Americans in the San Antonio Council House in the year 1840, she accidentally sparked a violent altercation, which brought to light the fact that a large number of prisoners were being held captive by the Comanche government within the Native American community. However, acts of violence committed against women and girls who were held hostage were generally not accepted. The moral code that they adhered to did not allow for such measures to be taken against members of the other gender. In point of fact, violence toward captives in general was looked down upon by a number of different societies across the continent of America. If a captive did not choose to remain a member of the tribe or marry one of the chiefs or warriors, then the captive's fate was typically determined by the amount of ransom that was paid. As women were taken for the intention of being sold to relatives, they became a valuable commodity that was brought into circulation. The hunt for prisoners, the ransoming of those hostages from the Indians, and the subsequent resale of those captives to their bereaved family members took place with the assistance of special agents. In addition, the Indians never coerced captives into joining their tribe against their will. When a captive expressed a desire to join a specific tribe, they were permitted to do so if they so wished. In the event that this was not the case, they were required to merely wait until they were ransomed. Young girls were frequently adopted by the household of the chief, and women were seen as extremely valuable by the Indians. They were considered to be physically strong, inherently attractive, and capable of bearing children that were worthy of respect. As a consequence of this, the custom of adopting a member of the chief's family developed into a ritual, which rewarded the most successful warrior with the privilege to marry the most attractive daughter of the head of the tribe. The example of Cynthia is illustrative of the fact that many prisoners who decided to remain in the tribe made attempts to return even after they were released from their confinement. Strangely enough, life in a society that may appear to be more primitive than it actually is was frequently more acceptable and comfortable for women than life in a culture that was generally considered to be civilized during that time period. Cynthia had a strong wish to have her bones interred on the reserve, despite the fact that she was unable to return to her Native American tribe. When it comes to illustrating the path of a captive within an Indian tribe, the fate of two girls who were held hostage during the notorious Oatman massacre is a clear example. The Oatman massacre is the name given to the sad event that came to be known as the Oatman family, who decided to travel to California. Ambushed by warriors who were most likely members of the Yavapai tribe, they were traveling approximately 90 miles away from Yuma's location. In the beginning, white Americans approached the Oatman family and asked for tobacco or food. However, they soon turned their attention to the Oatmans and massacred all of them, with the exception of two sisters named Olive and Mary Ann, as well as their older brother Lorenzo, who was left injured and left to die. Lorenzo was able to survive and relate the horrible events that took place, which is a miracle in and of itself. Mormons from the surrounding area assisted in the burial of the corpses, but it was not known what happened to the two sisters before their deaths. It was later discovered that Olive and Mary Ann had been taken captive by the tribe, and that they had been treated as if they were slaves. They were forced to collect food, gather branches for fires, and endure constant humiliation and derision from the Native American children. All of these activities were performed against their will. They even had burns on their hands as a result of the sticks that were burning. In addition, the adults of the tribe handled them in an unacceptable manner, and they routinely subjected them to physical punishment. Olive, in particular, was concerned that either she or her sister would be murdered at some point in the future. A period of approximately 1 year was spent by the sisters enduring these conditions until the Mojave Indians paid a visit to the tribe. The majority of the time, these visits consisted of the trading and exchange of products and meals. Olive and Mary Ann were quickly rescued by the Mojave once they became aware of the prisoners and ransomed them, respectively. All of a sudden, they discovered that they had been transferred to a different tribe where their treatment was very different. The chief and his wife, Espanola, as well as their daughter, Topeka, adopted both of the sisters and showed them a great deal of affection and care during their adoption. After some time had passed, Olive communicated that the Mojave had treated them more favorably than their own daughters. They no longer had to work, and as a further demonstration of their acceptance as full members, they even had tattoos placed on their faces to signify their membership. As if they were her own daughters, Espanola brought them up. It is interesting to note that, although the Mojave tribe was frequently sought out by the settlers, the girls never made a request for their assistance. It wasn't until a drought caused a famine to strike the Mojave tribe that Olive's younger sister passed away from malnutrition. At the same time, a visitor observed that there was a white girl living among the Mojave inhabitants. Soon after, a messenger from the United States military arrived and demanded that the girl be brought back within the shortest possible time. In the beginning, the merchants made an effort to conceal the fact that Olive was present with them. However, the military authorities threatened to destroy the entire town. The choice to return to civilization was taken by Olive, who was not accompanied by her sister. Olive, who was 19 years old at the time, disclosed that they had instructed her to conceal her American nationality, claiming that she belonged to a race of people that were similar to Indians and lived in a distant location. Olive's revelation came during discussions regarding her fate. To add insult to injury, they even painted her face, hands, and feet in a way that has never been displayed before. On the other hand, she disobeyed their directives and talked in broken English, revealing the truth about the circumstances of her encounter. This infuriated Francisco, the military representative, who steadfastly refused to acknowledge the deceit that had been presented to him. As a result of Olive's treachery, the merchants were getting ready to kill her, but the tribe head and his wife intervened and prevented any damage from coming to her. Olive was eventually reunited with her own people, including her brother, after many years had passed. After some time had passed, Olive's closest friend retracted her statement that she had a profound longing for her native Indian husband and her 2 sons for the rest of her life. Many of Olive's neighbors observed that she never smiled in a genuine manner, despite the fact that she had returned to a normal life, been married, and appeared to have left the past behind. It's possible that her desire to return to the life she had before was the one that stopped her from discovering genuine pleasure. We hope you liked this video. Subscribe to the channel if you're a history addict, and please let us know about what civilization or time period we should talk about. Also, watch another video here.